Genghis Khan and his family.
Oh,
what
cool.
they did. They killed 10% of the population of Earth while he was alive. They killed so many people that they affected the carbon footprint of human beings on Earth.
Genghis Khan conquered nations, rebuilt empires, and reshaped half the world.
Mongol War.
Yeah.
If you could watch, watching the Mongols sack a city and kill 1 million people and stack their bodies on top of each other.
Yet his burial was carried out in complete darkness. No records, no markings, and no survivors among the people who built it. For 1,000 years, the mystery held strong and every search failed. But now the impossible has happened. His tomb has finally been discovered, and what researchers found inside shocked the world.
Oh my God.
That's exactly, Albert, that's
crazy.
That's the sweet spot. I never expected, this is just astonishing.
The tomb no one was ever meant to find. For more than 1,000 years, people believed the tomb of Genghis Khan could never be found. Early Mongol traditions described the burial as a national mission of secrecy carried out with strict coordination. It was not treated as an ordinary grave, where every step was controlled, every witness removed, and every sign of movement erased. The intention was unmistakable. The Mongols wanted the world to lose every trace of the path that led to their leader's final resting place. Some accounts claim that the land itself was reshaped to bury the evidence. Workers dug new channels and redirected nearby rivers so that flowing water crossed the original route of the burial procession. Once the water reached those paths, it washed away tracks, softened the soil, and erased anything that could point to where the procession had traveled. The goal was simple: nothing from that journey should survive. Forests were then used to strengthen the disguise. Generations of Mongolian families shared stories about large areas being seeded with new trees. As the years passed, those trees grew into a thick and natural-looking barrier. Anyone who stepped inside saw nothing unusual. The forest appeared untouched, but it had been purposely shaped to hide what lay beneath the surface. The effort to protect the secret extended far beyond the burial zone itself. People who saw the funeral procession pass through the steppe were reportedly killed. The laborers who dug the grave were also silenced once their work ended. These deaths took place along the route, not at the burial site, and created a corridor of silence stretching across the land. Fear kept others from speaking. No one wanted to risk mentioning what they had seen or heard. To eliminate final traces, thousands of horses were ridden across the burial ground. The trampling flattened the earth until no sign of digging remained. Some elders believe the riders repeated this for days to ensure the site blended perfectly with the surrounding landscape. Legends later grew around a large, forbidden region where no one was allowed to enter. Trespassers were killed on sight. The fear of this place became stronger than the details of the secret it protected. People stayed away, not because they knew what was hidden there, but because they understood what happened to anyone who crossed the boundary. Oral stories passed down through the centuries added another layer of confusion. The details shifted, changed, and sometimes contradicted each other. Many elders claimed the stories were intentionally distorted so that anyone who tried to follow them would be led in the wrong direction. There are also claims that several decoy tombs were built to mislead anyone who tried to locate the real burial. These false sites created doubt and forced searchers into endless circles. But hidden beneath this engineered silence lies the story of a man whose rise to power explains why his resting place was concealed so fiercely. Rise of the Khan. Temujin's early life was shaped by hardship that most children would never survive. Mongol oral accounts describe how his family was abandoned after his father was poisoned by a rival group. This betrayal forced Temujin, his mother, and his siblings into a life of isolation. They endured bitter winters with almost nothing. Reports describe periods of starvation so severe that they searched the frozen ground for anything they could eat. Some accounts even mention that they went days consuming spoiled food and bad water because there was no other choice. These experiences produced a boy who trusted no one and learned very quickly that survival depended entirely on his own decisions. As Temujin grew older, he began to understand the deep divisions among the Mongol clans. These groups fought each other constantly and weakened themselves through endless disputes. Some historians believe he realized that unity was the only way for the steppe people to survive their harsh world. He reached out to different clans through negotiation, strategic marriages, and, when necessary, overwhelming force. One example often mentioned in historical discussions is his effort to end a long-standing hostility between the Mongols and the Onghirat. Temujin strengthened this alliance by taking Berte, the daughter of an Onghirat leader, as his wife. This marriage brought peace between the two groups and increased his political weight among rival factions. Many leaders expected him to fail despite these efforts. Instead, he outmaneuvered them with a calm but relentless focus. Several chronicles state that the speed at which he gained influence shocked older clan chiefs who believed they could control him. Once he had gained loyalty from key allies, Temujin created an entirely new kind of army. He refused to base rank on family ties. If a man could fight, follow orders, and learn quickly, he earned a place of honor. This decision created fierce loyalty. Soldiers felt that Temujin valued their ability rather than their bloodline. This merit-based structure allowed him to build an army that operated with a level of discipline that many enemies found terrifying. To coordinate thousands of soldiers across vast distances, Temujin introduced the decimal military structure. Every soldier knew his place. Every group had a clear chain of command. This order turned the Mongol army into an efficient force that could move faster than any opponent. Reports from survivors of Mongol attacks describe the shock of seeing units appear from unexpected directions with perfect timing. Even before adulthood, Mongol children trained with bows while riding horses. This constant training produced cavalry archers who could strike with precision while moving at full speed. When combined with tactics such as sudden encirclement and long-planned feigned retreats, Mongol forces shattered armies that believed they were safe behind walls or natural barriers. Fear spread quickly because cities fell faster than anyone believed possible. Temujin also introduced the yasa, which was a set of laws that demanded strict discipline. It also protected the right to practice different religions, something many empires struggled to accept. Under his rule, merchants traveled farther and carried new ideas and inventions across continents with a level of safety that had rarely existed before. Yet all these efforts to hide the tomb make sense only when you understand how unclear and unsettling his final moments were. The mystery of the grave began with the mystery of his death. His death and the birth of a global enigma. The final moments of Genghis Khan's life remain one of the most debated mysteries in history. Even the Mongols, who documented many events with care, left no clear explanation of how their leader died. Some ancient accounts claim he fell from a horse during a military campaign. Others insist he suffered from an illness that grew worse during the march. A few chronicles say he died from wounds inflicted during a clash with a rebellious tribe. There are also stories that he fell on his own sword in the middle of a confrontation, although this version is widely viewed as uncertain. The presence of so many conflicting explanations shows how determined the Mongols were to hide the truth. At the time of his death, the Mongol army was in the middle of a critical campaign. Historians often point out that any sign of weakness could have created panic within the ranks or encouraged enemy forces to strike back. This fear pushed the leadership into immediate silence. Only a small group of trusted commanders were told that Genghis Khan had died. They understood that if this information spread, even as a rumor, it could weaken the army, embolden their enemies, and unsettle every tribe under Mongol control. A covert funeral operation began the moment he died. The men involved were among his closest and most loyal followers. They were ordered to continue acting as if the Khan were still alive, while they prepared for the transport of his body. The army marched forward without any outward sign of disruption. Meanwhile, the selected group began a secret journey back toward the Mongolian heartland. They avoided settlements, stayed far from trade paths, and moved in complete silence. According to several accounts, the rest of the army never realized a funeral procession existed. After the burial, every reference to the event was erased from official records. Documents that might have mentioned the burial route or the location were either never written or were removed entirely. Future generations of leaders continued the silence, treating the Khan's resting place as something that must never be revealed. The secrecy became a tradition within the ruling elite. It was passed down as a responsibility, not a choice. But the tomb was not protected by secrecy alone. A sacred force of guardians and rituals rose to shield it through the ages. The Sacred Shield. For centuries after the death of Genghis Khan, a large region in northern Mongolia became known as Ik Korig. This name meant the Great Taboo, and it was not an exaggeration. According to historical accounts, this zone stretched across roughly 240 kilometers of wilderness. No outsider was permitted to enter. Even high-ranking officials avoided it, because everyone understood that the land belonged only to the royal Borjigin lineage and to those selected to protect it. The scale of this isolation shocked early travelers who heard about it. They could not believe that so much territory had been sealed off for one purpose. The Borjigin family and the chosen guardians were the only people allowed within the borders of Ich-Kori. The guardians became known as the Dark Had. Their responsibility was passed from one generation to the next, and they took the role with absolute seriousness. According to locals, the Dark Had did not simply patrol the land. They performed rituals to honor ancestral spirits and to make sure the region remained undisturbed. These rituals continued for hundreds of years. The Guardians treated the land as a living force that needed constant attention. Another form of protection came from the land itself. The region was extremely cold for most of the year, and the ground froze so deeply that the soil became hard like solid rock. This deep freeze created a natural barrier that kept anything buried beneath it sealed and untouched. Some researchers believe that if the tomb is hidden in this environment, the freezing ground may have preserved it far better than any human method ever could. To mislead outsiders even further, a large ceremonial structure was later built in Ordos, which is far from the true sacred area. Important public ceremonies were held there, and many visitors assumed it was the real resting place of Genghis Khan. The memorial looked impressive and respectful, but it contained no body. It functioned as a symbolic site that drew attention away from the real tomb, which remained hidden and protected. Mongolian folklore added yet another layer of defense. Many stories warned that disturbing the sacred land would bring disaster to anyone who attempted it. These warnings were not told as simple tales. They were passed down as serious instructions meant to protect both the land and the people. Families repeated them for generations, and the fear they created kept the region undisturbed. Despite these powerful barriers, the mystery surrounding the tomb continued to grow. With time, curiosity turned into obsession. The modern world eventually arrived with new tools and new determination, ready to challenge the protections that had held strong for centuries. The modern obsession. The mystery of Genghis Khan's tomb did not fade with time. Instead, it grew stronger, especially once modern technology gave researchers new tools to challenge the silence of the past. One of the most determined figures in this search was National Geographic explorer Albert Lynn. He decided to use a fully non-invasive approach, because disturbing sacred land would break Mongolian customs. Lynn studied high-resolution satellite images and looked for unnatural patterns in the terrain. According to his published findings, some areas showed geometric shapes that hinted at man-made structures hidden beneath soil and vegetation. These early signs encouraged him to expand the investigation. Ground-penetrating radar became another major tool in the modern search. Research teams scanned large sections of the Khenti Mountains and discovered several underground anomalies. Some shapes looked like collapsed chambers, and others appeared to be long, straight features that did not match the natural landscape. These discoveries caused excitement, but nothing could be confirmed without excavation. Mongolian officials remained firm that digging was not allowed, so every anomaly remained unverified. Another large project known as the Three Rivers Expedition pushed deeper into remote regions. The team uncovered over 1,300 aristocratic graves across a wide stretch of land. The scale of this discovery shocked the researchers because it showed how many members of the elite had been buried in secrecy. Yet none of the graves belonged to the Great Khan. The absence only made the search more intense. Some scholars claimed the number of graves proved that the Mongols had taken extraordinary steps to hide one burial among many. Historians also searched through ancient texts from Persia, China, and Mongolia. They compared battle routes, seasonal migration patterns, and descriptions of sacred landscapes. The goal was to find overlapping clues that might reveal a burial zone. Although these texts contained many details about the empire, the information rarely aligned. Every time a promising clue surfaced, another document contradicted it. One of the most persistent explorers was Maury Kravitz, who spent decades traveling through harsh terrain in an effort to map valleys and plains believed to conceal the tomb. He spoke to nomadic families, reviewed forgotten maps, and crossed areas where few travelers ever ventured. Kravitz claimed he had narrowed the location to a specific region, but he never found proof. Many expeditions reported strange problems. Some teams described mechanical failures that made no sense. Others spoke of sudden illness among members. A few reported interference with navigation equipment. These incidents were never explained and were often dismissed as bad luck, but they added tension to the search. Throughout all of this, Mongolian cultural leaders remained protective of the sacred land. They feared that foreign excavations would anger ancestral spirits and damage national heritage. Their resistance created conflict with international researchers, who believed the world had a right to know the truth. Every promising lead ended in uncertainty. Instead of solving the mystery, each expedition deepened global fascination. Scholars competed over theories, and the search became a race filled with frustration and obsession. Just when the world thought they understood where to look, one controversial explorer redirected the entire search with a theory no one expected. Mountain X, the theory that rewrote the map. For years, researchers searched the northeastern mountains of Mongolia because tradition pointed everyone toward Burkhan Khaldun. It was believed to be the sacred ground of Genghis Khan's birth, rise, and possibly his burial. That belief seemed unshakable until Alan Nichols stepped into the conversation. Nichols was an explorer who did not accept established theories without testing them. According to several reports, he believed the world had been staring in the wrong direction for generations. He claimed that if the tomb was meant to be hidden forever, then the most obvious location was likely the wrong one. Nichols proposed a new theory that shocked scholars who had spent their careers focused on the traditional site. His research pointed instead toward a remote and unnamed peak near the Yellow River in Inner Mongolia. This area was known for difficult terrain and limited documentation. It was also outside the zone that most historians had considered. According to Nichols, older maps and obscure records hinted at movements of royal groups far beyond the expected regions. His conclusion was simple: if someone wanted to hide the tomb completely, they would take it somewhere unexpected. Exploring this region was far more complicated than earlier searches. Much of the land near the Yellow River was under restricted military control. Entering without authorization could lead to arrest, or worse. Political tension in the area made outside exploration extremely dangerous. Nichols and his team were forced to work quietly and with small groups. According to members familiar with his work, every step had to be negotiated with care and absolute discretion. Despite the difficulties, Nichols managed to conduct a limited investigation. He brought ground-penetrating radar to several sections of the mountain. The scans revealed unusual subsurface shapes. Some of these shapes looked like rectangular structures buried deep under layers of rock and soil. Although the images were not clear enough for confirmation, they were compelling enough to demand further study. Magnetometer readings provided another surprise. They hinted at metal concentrations in specific patterns, which some believed could indicate the presence of chambers reinforced with ancient materials. These results created excitement among his team, but the findings were never released to the public. Nichols kept everything confidential. He stated that the political sensitivity of the region made any public announcement dangerous. This secrecy angered academic institutions that wanted his data reviewed. They argued that withholding information would fuel confusion and open the door to false claims. The controversy grew quickly. Rumors spread that Nichols had uncovered something he was not allowed to share. Other rumors suggested that governments in the region ordered silence because the findings were too explosive. Nothing was proven, but the lack of clarity made every rumor feel possible. The pressure surrounding his theory forced international research groups, Mongolian officials, and cultural authorities to confront a difficult choice. They could not ignore the rising global interest any longer. This pressure created the turning point. A joint scientific committee was formed to review every credible lead, including survey data from previous decades. Nichols' findings were reviewed secretly, along with results from other long-running studies. After weeks of evaluation, the committee identified one region where multiple independent surveys showed consistent underground patterns. This location did not match the traditional belief, nor did it match Nichols' exact claim, but his theory had forced them to widen the search. Once the government approved a small, carefully supervised excavation, preparations began immediately. Archaeologists arrived at the selected site and worked with strict limits. They dug slowly and under constant oversight. After days of controlled excavation, they uncovered the upper stones of an ancient sealed chamber. It was the breakthrough the world had waited for. What the excavation team uncovered next forced the world to hold its breath. The moment of truth had arrived, and nothing could prepare them for what waited beneath the soil. The 1,000-year opening. The world had waited for 1,000 years, and now the sealed tomb believed to be Genghis Khan's had finally been opened. The operation was not rushed. It involved international coordination, Mongolian approval, and supervision from UNESCO. Every decision had to respect Mongolia's traditions while allowing enough scientific access to confirm what lay inside. Security was strict, and only a small team of experts entered the site. The atmosphere was tense. Some members felt excitement, while others admitted they were afraid of the responsibility they carried. The entrance revealed a massive underground chamber supported by carefully arranged stonework. The design was precise and showed knowledge that matched 13th century methods. The stones had been locked together tightly, which helped keep the chamber sealed for centuries. When the team stepped inside, their lights revealed an interior that looked untouched by time. Dust had settled over everything, but the structure remained steady. The chamber contained rows of ceremonial items. There were sets of armor that had been polished before burial. There were weapons arranged with care, including bows, spears, and blades that carried distinctive Mongol designs. Scrolls had been placed in protected containers, and although some were fragile, a surprising number were still readable. Food offerings had been sealed in clay vessels. When opened, these vessels still held dried remains of meat and fermented drinks. According to several specialists on the team, the preservation was better than expected because of the cold, airless conditions inside the chamber. Textiles were found folded near the center of the room. Wool and silk pieces displayed patterns linked to Mongolian, Chinese, and Persian craftsmanship. These mixed influences showed how far the Mongol Empire stretched during its peak. Some of the cloths were burial garments, while others appeared to be personal gifts. The discovery that shook the room came when the team uncovered human remains that matched the profile of a 13th century warrior leader. The bones were well preserved. The positioning suggested a deliberate and respectful burial. A necklace was found around the neck. Some reports claim this necklace resembled an item Temujin's mother was said to have given him in childhood for protection. If the connection is true, then the object would have held deep emotional meaning for him. There were also items that appeared to be gifts left by people close to him. One group of researchers noted that a small carved token found near the burial resembled objects associated with his first wife Berta. Another object, a thick wooden seal, matched styles linked to his son, Ugadei. These items added a personal element to the discovery and hinted that his family may have played a role in the burial preparations. Some scholars believe these items were chosen to remind future generations, if they were ever discovered, of the relationships that shaped the Khan's life. Scientific testing followed quickly. Radiocarbon dating confirmed that the remains were from the correct time period. DNA studies revealed genetic markers linked to Central Asian populations connected to Mongol royal lines. Every artifact and each scientific result strengthened the case that this was indeed the long-hidden tomb of Genghis Khan. But what awaited outside the excavation site was not a scientific celebration. It was a storm of spiritual, political, and cultural upheaval. Shockwaves across the world. The moment news spread that the long-hidden tomb had finally been opened, Mongolia reacted with a wave of emotion that was powerful and immediate. Many citizens felt pride. They believed the discovery confirmed the greatness of their ancestor and the importance of their history. Others felt deep fear. In many Mongolian families, stories had been passed down warning that disturbing the Khan's rest would bring disaster. These warnings were not treated as old tales. They were treated as serious cultural beliefs, and the idea that outsiders had entered the tomb created real concern. Rumors began to circulate that ancient curses had been ignored. Some people whispered that the land would respond with misfortune. This fear grew stronger in rural regions where traditional beliefs are still followed closely. Families argued over whether the tomb should have remained sealed forever. In Inner Mongolia, which is under Chinese control, the discovery reignited cultural debates about ownership. Many ethnic Mongols in the region felt the tomb was connected to their identity. They worried that political interests might overshadow cultural rights. Russia also showed quiet interest, especially since parts of its own history were shaped by the Mongol Empire. Analysts noted that the discovery could shift regional influence if handled poorly. Within Mongolia, leaders debated what should happen next. Some argued for reburial. Others demanded limited access. A few suggested that the Darkhad, the traditional guardians, should resume their role. UNESCO urged caution and recommended non-invasive study to avoid damaging the site or violating cultural beliefs. Whether the world protects this site or exploits it will reveal more about us than about Genghis Khan. If you enjoyed this journey and want to see more stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.